Beers with Chad. Hey everybody, Chad Wesley Smith here, bringing you episode number 10 of Beers with Chad. Today I'm going to be talking to you about a little bit of my experience with Jiu Jitsu so far in about 8 months I've been training. So I got to get extra official wearing my Gracie Baja tee. I'll be talking to you a little bit about just kind of how I got into it, what's been challenging to me with it, and a bit more. So first off, today I'm drinking Stone I'm Peach Double IPA, limited edition from Stone Brewing Company down there in San Diego. Cheers. That is very good. That is a very, very tasty beer for this beautiful afternoon here in Orange County, California. If you haven't seen this week, I also released a new squat manual which covers everything from equipment, a ton of different stuff on movement prep and mobility, as well as technique, exercise selection to help you address various weak points, programming considerations to help you better understand how to assess MRV, how to choose the right relative intensity for athletes, how to pick optimal frequency, as well as including a couple different programs for beginner, intermediate, and advanced athletes. This week's episode of The Jug Life is not up yet. It'll be up before or a little bit later tonight. So after you watch this live, but before you listen to it tomorrow on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, or thejuglife.com, all the places where you can find this. It is, in my opinion, the best episode that we have ever had. It features Cal rugby coach Jack Clark. He has been the head coach for the University of California Golden Bears rugby team for 33 years, in which they have won 23 national championships. So, yeah, definitely a worthwhile listen. So look for that on YouTube and all those places I just mentioned. This week's episodes of The Jug Life and the Jug Life bonus episode, Beers with Chad, is brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. And while I don't use Dollar Shave Club for the shaving purposes, obviously, it does have a lot of nice other products, moisturizing lotions, toothpastes, even things called One Wipe Charlies to wipe your butt with. And you can find all those at dollarshaveclub.com/juglife and support the show. So Jiu-Jitsu. I have been training Jiu-Jitsu for about the last 8 months, but we'll rewind several years before we get to that and talk about what sort of initially piqued my interest in that community and how I became to get involved. And if you've been following Juggernaut for a really long time, back since maybe 2010, 2011 in our early days, you would know that we were a sport performance gym, and that jiu-jitsu was one of the main populations that I worked with. In the earliest days of Juggernaut, late 2009, when we opened our doors without a single client, one of the first things we did was cold call people, and some of those people were various MMA and jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai schools around here in Orange County, and I got connected with a guy named Fabio Vilela and his school, Gigante BJJ, right over here in Costa Mesa. And he was this 6'7", 250-pound black belt from Brazil, not great English, and I kind of told him what we did, and I said, maybe you want to come and check it out, and if you like it, you can tell your students about it. And so Fabio, was really one of the first Juggernaut clients, and after maybe a week with him, then came a couple more black belts and really high level, some really high level athletes. So from late 2009 through 2013, I got to work with some really high level jiu-jitsu practitioners, people like Romulo Barral, Kyron Gracie, Felipe Pena, who is regarded by many as the best grappler in the world right now. He's the defending ADCC champion. Roberto Alencar Tusa, he was so many different guys. Ulpiano Malachias and my current professor, Felipe de la Monica. And I really carved out this niche with the Gracie Baja community. And at one point, basically was coaching the professor from every Gracie Baja school in Orange County, and we have about one in about every single city. So had like 12, 13 black belts working with, a couple lower belts, and then in times leading up to competitions like Worlds or Pan Ams, they would, we'd have other people coming in from out of state or even traveling from out of the country, Brazil and Europe, for little training camps, maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks going into Worlds, and it was just a blast. And then those guys, they would always say, "Oh, Shad," they don't say Chad, not with a CH. It's, "Oh, Shad, like, come on, man, you got to train jiu-jitsu, got to roll, you're gonna smash everybody." And so they would show me, one thing here or there and some mats that we would roll out on the gym floor. But my training at that point was just focused on powerlifting and strongman, and I didn't want to take the risk of getting my elbow hurt or twisting my knee, or I just didn't want to add the extra stress to my training. So I stayed focused on powerlifting, even though they wanted the Juggernaut to come and smash people in jiu-jitsu. And fast forward to 2017, and in early 2017, I was just kind of beat up from powerlifting, not injured but hurt, and more than the physical stuff though, which really could have just been maybe a month of rehab type of work. It was more, I was just worn down mentally by powerlifting, and I think the best training is going to be specific, and in that it's going to tend to be tedious. And I made a mistake basically 2 years in a row, made a very similar mistake, and even once, as I think about it earlier in my career, of trying to turn around and do other meets so fast. Having a meet, maybe a good meet. This happened at at Pro Raw 7 in late 2016 or late 2015, trying to turn around and do a meet right after in early 2016, and then late 2016 with Big Dogs trying to turn right around and do a meet in early 2017. And I wouldn't take the time off in between to let my body heal, to let my mind kind of refresh, and get hungry to train hard again. So what happened there is I was run down physically, was run down mentally, and just kind of became disillusioned with it. I was also very, very busy, doing all the Juggernaut stuff and kind of stressed out with that. So between being busy with work and sort of disillusioned with hard training, and particularly powerlifting at the time, I took, probably from about February 2017 through August, or maybe through July into August, was training 1 or 2 times a week, several times without training at all. I think I went 3 weeks without training a single time, and I was just ready for a change. I was ready to be a bit more athletic again, to just have fun with what I was doing, and I wanted a new challenge for that. So I remembered my old friend Felipe de la Monica, now the head professor at the Gracie Baja headquarters in Irvine, California, and reached out to him and said, "Hey, can I come by class?" And that was about the middle of August, and I've been training 2, 3, 4 days a week since then. Just adding stripes to my white belt. So I get asked a lot, how do you set up, powerlifting and jiu-jitsu training together? And that's really not what I've been doing. I haven't been trying to train for both together. I'd say from August until about February, I definitely put more of my attention towards jiu-jitsu training, was training sometimes up to 5 times a week, and just kind of getting back into lifting, because as I said, I'd had very sporadic training for the first about half of 2017. But what I've been doing most recently, and I'm getting ready to do the novice, the white belt worlds, the last week of May, is I've been lifting 4 days a week and training jiu-jitsu 4 days a week. And I haven't done all the stuff in my training that I would feel like is ideal jiu-jitsu preparation, and some of that is just time and constraints with that. But what I've been doing right now is I train 4 days a week. I go to the advanced class of the Gracie Baja headquarters, and that class is usually, we do our warm up, and then we'll do some drilling. They'll show a technique for the night. We'll drill that 5-10 minutes, maybe another technique for 5-10 minutes. Go into guard rotation for 15 to 20 minutes, and then stay and do some live training and get a couple rolls in after that. I've been doing that Monday and Thursday nights in the class. Saturday doing the competition class, which is a little bit more conditioning heavy, and then Wednesday mornings I train with Professor Brent, Coach Brent Littell, and do a private training with him, and so he can give me a little bit more guided work as specific to my game. As you could imagine, I'm not the typical body type in there in jiu-jitsu, and not the typical skill set necessarily, so we're trying to work things that are more optimal for me. So right now in that lifting, I lift Monday, Tuesday, actually I take that back, I lift 5 days a week: Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Monday I'll do some jumps, I'll squat hard, do some posterior chain work, usually an RDL variation. It's really just been the last maybe 6 weeks that I've been squatting to, for me, respectable weights, back up into the mid 500-600 pounds. I can probably squat, high bar squat, like 720-ish right now, which I feel okay with all the other stuff we're doing. So I'll lift on Monday morning, train hard Monday night. Tuesday I'll have a hard upper body workout, bench press, back training, some direct arm and shoulder work. I definitely found that in jiu-jitsu, my specific endurance in my arms, whether it's the grip or even my shoulders and triceps, trying to control people's arms and stuff, was lacking. So that's been beneficial to me. Wednesday I just do my hard training on the private with Coach Brent at 6:30 in the morning. Sometimes later that day I'll do a little bit of cardio on my rower, get out here in the backyard in the sunshine and work on the cardio a little bit. Thursday I do a small workout that's all back workout. When I was doing powerlifting, I wouldn't do a lot of direct back training. That's kind of a topic for a different day, but I think people overvalue direct lat work, and I don't think it was something that held my total back, but it is, back training and back strength is tremendously important in jiu-jitsu. So I have Thursday is just a dedicated, like a bodybuilding style back day. I'll do cable rows, lat pull downs, single arm rows, maybe a bit of rear delt work, and then train hard again that night. Friday is another lower body workout similar to Monday's workout, but a little bit smaller. And then Saturday is similar to Tuesday's workout, but a little bit smaller, so bench press, some back, and then the hard competition class. I was doing more sprinting and jumping, med ball throws, that kind of stuff, which I feel is hugely beneficial to jiu-jitsu training. It's just been a bit tricky for me to fit that all in and make sure that I'm staying healthy and that I have the energy to devote to the lifting, because Juggernaut is a powerlifting and weightlifting company, so I got to make sure I'm strong enough to kind of walk the walk there. So I haven't been putting as much of that in lately, but I do think it's very beneficial. From my coaching of all these guys like Hamalu Bahal and Kyron Gracie, Mario Reyes and Felipe Pena, you can Google, I don't sell it anymore, but you can find it on Google. If you Google Juggernaut Jiu-Jitsu Physical Preparation Manual, you'll see a lot of the ideas that I'm talking about in there. Take a sip here. That's a nice looking beer right there. And jiu-jitsu has been such a unique challenge for me. Early in Juggernaut, I was still throwing the shot put. I had started doing track and field when I was 8 years old and did that until I was 23, right before my 24th birthday was my last meet. then I made a very smooth transition into powerlifting. Even though I was new to powerlifting, I had lifted very heavy for about a decade at that time. Came in right away, 800-pound squat, 700-pound deadlift, a 1962 total on my first meet, 2165 shortly after that, 905 squat a couple months after that. Very, very rapid progression and success. Then I switched over to strongman. I started strongman in March 2012, St. Patrick's Day. Is that March or April? Whatever day St. Patrick's Day is was my first strongman contest. I started training for it about a week before that, and then right after that, shortly after that, in November 2012, so like 8 months, not even 8 months later, I mean 6 months later, I won nationals and was a pro strongman. Then I came back, I was doing both powerlifting and strongman, but in all of those sports, I had a lot of fast success, and it has been a long time since I was a beginner in something, and I have truly been that in jiu-jitsu. And there's been a lot of challenges for me. Probably the simplest to ones that have been cardio, trying to get roll after roll. Even the first fundamentals class I did, the warm-up, I was dying. I was just trying to kind of hang on for dear life through that class. My cardio's gotten a lot better. Being able to go 3-4, good solid like 6-7 minute rolls with 1 or 2 minutes in between. Now, the mobility parts of things, some of it is still really tough for me. It's hard for me to get my knees up into my chest, and some external hip rotation stuff that's been really challenging, and just the movement patterns in jiu-jitsu are things that I haven't done in a long time. When I was throwing the shot put, I had this huge rotational power, and that would really come in handy for jiu-jitsu now, but it's something, I stopped throwing the shot put in 2009, and in the last 9 years I'd lost quite a bit of that, so that's been a change in just these deep flexion positions, rotation, a lot of new movement patterns. It's certainly been a challenge to put my ego aside and stuff, and be a sponge learning, to get beat by more experienced guys who are way smaller than me, particularly the times that I get to roll with Professor Philippe. And I know Philippe watches Beers with Chad, so maybe he's watching right now. What's up, Furao? And Professor Philippe is maybe 175 pounds, but he's so specially strong, special strength for jiu-jitsu, and his ability to manipulate his technique into having these perfect leverages, and just the experience of doing these moves so many times, it makes him feel like he's twice as strong as I am, and that I can never make a right decision. I figure wherever I put my hand is wrong, and he's going to tap me out from there. But so that's been a challenge. But something that's been a great takeaway from it is this idea of process orientation. And if you listen to the Jug Life, you've heard Max and I talk about that. And being process oriented is being focused essentially on the steps to achieve something, rather than just the goal that you're trying to achieve. And where it really started to connect for me in jiu-jitsu is as I would train with my coach, Professor Brent Littell, and we'd work a lot of side control escapes. So I'm on the bottom, Professor Brent is in side control on me, and I have to recover guard from there. And when we first started doing it, I would get so panicked when someone would get into side control on me. All I'd be thinking about is get out of side control. Just whatever you have to do, just get out of this. And I would rush, and I wouldn't recover. I wouldn't recover guard. I wouldn't escape from there. And it wasn't until Professor Brent could really break down these kind of foundational steps of it for me, of getting my frames in, and then creating space to get my knee in, so getting my hips away, getting my bottom knee across, from there being able to push them away and create space so I could finally recover my guard. That idea really connected with me about weightlifting, about powerlifting, and how we work with our athletes at Juggernaut. That so many people, they say, "Oh, I want to improve my squat, or I want to improve my my snatch, I want to snatch better, is very similar to the idea of I have to get out of side control. I have to, I have to escape this. If all I thought about was the end result, if all I think about is trying to escape, I'm never going to achieve the first step that's necessary in doing that. So being able to think about how can I best achieve that first step, and then the second step, and then the third step, fourth step, and however many steps it really takes, in terms of how many times I might have to try and scoot my hips away and create space, has been extremely beneficial for me in not just improving my jiu-jitsu, which is hopefully happening at this point, but also being able to relate some technique ideas to our weightlifters and powerlifters, whether that's someone who wants to improve their snatch and they need to feel their pressure in their big toe in the start position. They need to be more patient, they need to get their lats tighter off the ground. They need to be more patient taking the bar from the floor to the knees. They need to sweep the bar in with their lats to be patient where they meet the hip, and then drive with the elbows high and then pull themselves under. If all they think is I got to snatch better, they might not be able to do all of the steps along the way that are going to make them do that. Are going to make them more successful in that big idea. So that's a little bit about what I've been doing with jiu-jitsu. Really enjoy it. Gracie Baja headquarters in Irvine, California. Like I said, getting ready for the novice worlds, white belt worlds here the last week of May. I'll be competing as a master, and ultra heavy weight class is no surprise there. The top weight class for jiu-jitsu is just 100 kilos plus, so a pretty wide range. But if you see really high level jiu-jitsu competitors, like a guy I mentioned earlier, Felipe Pena, ADCC open weight champion, so that's all the weight classes combined. Felipe is maybe 6'2", 195, 200 pounds. Guys like Buchecha is the best ultra heavyweight competitor in the world, and he's probably 6'3", 230, 6'4", 230, and that tends to be the more kind of optimal body type. Is longer limbs, thinner waist, allows for better mobility and all that kind of stuff. A guy that I really like watching is Orlando Sanchez, the Cuban tree stump. He's probably like, 5'9", 300 pounds. Rose really fast through black belt, super strong guy. I like to watch him as a bit more similar to my body type, so I can take a little bit more from his game. But it's a lot of fun. If you're looking for something to kind of spice up your training and just a new challenge to enjoy, I would highly suggest checking out jiu-jitsu. There's tons of schools everywhere. You can go with the Red Shield, Gracie Baja. I'm sure there's one that's close to you. New little segment I want to add to the Beers with Chad before I get another sip of this delicious Stone I'm Peach limited edition double IPA. Yeah, new thing I'm going to be adding is the thing of the week. All right, and the thing of the week might be a movie, a TV show, podcast, book, music, anything that's really interested me that week, and maybe stuff that I'm listening to or reading or watching. And the thing of the week for this week is the NBA playoffs. Growing up, I was a really big basketball fan. I played AAU basketball, travel teams, all that stuff from when I was 8 until maybe 13 or 14. When I had mostly been growing wider rather than taller. I went to the small private school, and most of the kids on the AAU team were from our school, and I had two guys in my 8th grade class who were 6'5". And I think at the start of 8th grade, I was about 5'2", though I did grow like 6 or 7 inches that year. But growing up, I was always a huge basketball fan, about 1993 to 2000. So like the peak of Michael Jordan's career, all those great battles, Knicks, Pacers, Knicks, heat, really physical basketball. And then for a long time, I didn't watch basketball. I watched the Lakers some, in high school with Shaq and Kobe and all that stuff, but it had sort of, you know, fallen away from watching basketball. And these the playoffs this year, kind of the end of the regular season, the playoffs, I started picking back up to watch basketball, it's crazy to see how much the game has changed. From these games in the mid '90s that were like, 88 to 82 kind of games, and super super physical, and those were really cool in their own way. And now the games are 115 to 110, and everyone's shooting threes, and the guys on the court, the positions have changed so much. I remember, and if you watch the 30 for 30s, which I love those, and you can watch that Reggie Miller 30 for 30 winning time, it's called, and it's all about Pacers versus Knicks rivalries. And you see these guys out on the court for the Pacers like Rick Smits and Dale and Antonio Davis versus these bruisers for the Knicks, guys like Charles Oakley and Anthony Mason, as well as Patrick Ewing. And it's a super physical basketball. And now if you watch, none of those dudes would see the court. Like, they couldn't make a shot past maybe 15 feet away from the basket. And now you get guys, these stretch fours and even centers, guys 7 feet tall, someone like Kevin Durant, or even like Karl Anthony Towns, Clint Capella, Anthony Davis, all these guys who can handle the ball, they can shoot from distance. It's really incredible, which of course leads into the debate that if you listen to sports talk radio and watch ESPN and Fox Sports 1 like I do, they're always talking LeBron James, Michael Jordan. Who's the GOAT? Who's the greatest of all time? So I'll give a quick weigh-in on my opinion there. I'd say every game that I watch of LeBron James, I'm coming more and more around to LeBron being the best basketball player of all time. Growing up, like I said, the peak of my basketball fandom was probably about 1992 to 2000, maybe 2002. And from 92 to 98, that was Michael Jordan. He was the king. He was the biggest thing, not just in basketball, but in sport culture. Someone who I really looked at as this just incredible icon of competitiveness and success and all that stuff. And he certainly is all of those things. But as I watch the game more and think about it, hopefully with a more critical eye as I get older, there's a couple arguments that I think really go in LeBron's favor. One is something that I was just talking about, the depth of the league, the talent of the players. There's just a lot more really good players now than there were in the mid 90s. If you think about guys who were extremely successful in that time period, like a John Stockton or Gary Payton, and those type of guys having to match up with a Russell Westbrook or a Ben Simmons, just next level athletes, or someone like Karl Malone, who was this great player and one of the all-time leading scorers. Look at Karl Malone on the court in an old, in one of those old games. 6'9", 250 pounds, power forward, bruiser. You know who else is 6'9", 250 pounds, or maybe 260 pounds? LeBron James. But he brings the ball up. He can guard from the point guards to centers, shoot threes, take it to the basket, all that stuff. So the depth of the league and LeBron's well-rounded game, his ability to guard all five positions, his ability to not only score the basketball extremely effectively, whether it's taking it to the basket, posting up, shooting from outside, rebound and assist, as well as, like I said, play defense against all five. Those defenses probably fallen off a bit this last year or two. I think that really tips in his favor. The argument that people use so often for why Michael Jordan's the greatest of all time is that he's 6 for 6 in the finals. And yes, that is amazing, and he is an incredible competitor. But I don't think it's right to necessarily knock LeBron for losing some of these finals. Though the first one that he lost with the Heat, I think that one is definitely a black mark against him when they lost to the Mavericks. But he's had to play much harder teams. When the first time that he went with the Cavs, he took them there by himself to play an all-time great team in the Spurs. Now he's having to go up against these all-time great teams in the Warriors, something that Michael Jordan never had to do. He never had to play an all-time great team. And if the conference alignment is such sort of an arbitrary thing, if we were to take the Bulls and put them at their time in the Western Conference, the way that the Chicago Blackhawks are in the NHL in the West, it's very likely, I think, that Michael Jordan would have lost 2 or 3 finals because he would have gone to 2 or 3 more. So it would have been those years, 88, 89, 90, where he was losing to the Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals. He instead may have been playing the Pistons in the NBA Championship and losing to them. So then, that argument kind of would go away. Again, a hypothetical. And then the other thing I think to consider is people, tout Jordan as this all-time mentally tough guy, and he is that, but he's also petty and salty as shit. And LeBron, I think, gets underrated for his mental toughness when you consider everything that the modern athlete and modern NBA player has to deal with in terms of social media and how much greater that scrutiny is, and how LeBron has been dealing with that since he was in high school. I remember reading about LeBron James when he was in high school, when I was in high school, back in the early 2000s, like 2002, 2003, and he's been a star since then, and he's done a phenomenal job. And that's who I tip the hat to Mr. LeBron James as the greatest of all time. If he is somehow able to win the finals, to make it to the finals and win this year against the Warriors or the Rockets, I think that'll solidify it for him. So this was another episode of Beers with Chad. Like I said, drinking Stone I'm Peach Double IPA limited edition. So make sure you go check that out while you can. Check out my squat manual. Equipment, mobility, technique, exercise selection to address different weak points, program design considerations, and actual programs for you. It's $17 until 9 a.m. Pacific time on Friday, May 11th. Then it'll go up to $22 for a couple days, and then finally on to $27 will be the normal price. So get it for the pre-sale price while you can. There's an airplane flying over. Apologies. Make sure to check out that squat manual as well as my other books, like The Thoughtful Pursuit of Strength, Scientific Principles of Strength Training. Both of those are available in paperback from jtsstrength.com as well as amazon.com. So if you like those books, go on Amazon, give us a 5-star review, write about the books. We really would appreciate that, as well as all other great stuff. Beginner's Guide to Powerlifting, Fuerza, Weightlifting, Technique, Triad. Tons of great stuff at store.jtsstrength.com. This is the Jug Life Podcast. Go on iTunes, give us a 5-star review. You can find us iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, thejuglife.com. We always appreciate the good reviews on iTunes, and it's going to help more people find us. Normally, it's Tuesdays for the normal Jug Life episodes, and then Thursdays, Beers with Chad will come out on iTunes and all those. This week, like I said, our schedule is a little bit thrown off because of the squat manual book and having to get that ready to go. But definitely check out this week's episode of the Jug Life with Mr. Jack Clark, Cal rugby coach. Been the coach for 33 years. They've won 23 national championships in that time. Phenomenal man. Jack Clark is all that is man. Max and I both felt pretty bad about ourselves for not being better people after talking to him. And I don't go in much for the motivation and inspiration, but I was definitely motivated and inspired after walking away from that conversation with Jack Clark. So check that episode out. Subscribe to our YouTube. 3 videos a week. If you're interested in online coaching for powerlifting, weightlifting, super total strongman, or power building, visit juggernautcoaching.com. Upcoming events that I have: I will be in Vancouver, Canada at Dynasty Gym on Sunday, June 10th for a little powerlifting clinic. Then Max and I are headed to Texas to record some Jug Life episodes throughout the Lone Star State, and we will have 2 Jug Life Live events on Friday, June 22nd at Arlington Strength, doing a little squat clinic and then recording an episode. And then on Saturday, June 23rd, we'll be at D-Town CrossFit for a snatch clinic and then record another episode. And both of those events are free, so make sure to check that out. And finally, the Juggernaut Performance Summit is August 19th in Long Island, New York. That is myself, Max Ada, Dr. Quinn Hennock, Dr. Mike Israel, and Dr. James Hoffman, bringing you everything you need to know about serious. The airport's really killing me right now with the planes flying over. Everything you need to know about serious training, because we'll be talking about program design, technique mastery, nutrition, movement, and recovery. That's the Juggernaut Performance Summit. You can register for all of those at store.jtsstrength.com. This was Beers with Chad. Thanks for watching or listening, and I'll see you next week.